A Passage to India, Chapter 14. Most of life is so dull that there is nothing to be said about it, and the books and talks that would describe it as interesting are obliged to exaggerate, in the hope of justifying their own existence. Inside its cocoon of work or social obligation, the human spirit slumbers for the most part, registering the distinction between pleasure and pain, but not nearly as alert as we pretend. There are periods in the most thrilling day during which nothing happens, and though we continue to exclaim, "I do enjoy myself," or "I am horrified," we are insincere. As far as I feel anything, it is enjoyment, horror. It's no more than that, really, and a perfectly adjusted organism would be silent. It so happened that Mrs. Moore and Miss Quested had felt nothing acutely for a fortnight. Ever since Professor Godbole had sung his queer little song, they had lived more or less inside cocoons, and the difference between them was that the elder lady accepted her own apathy, while the younger resented hers. It was Adela's faith that the whole stream of events is important and interesting, and if she grew bored, she blamed herself severely and compelled her lips to utter enthusiasms. This was the only insincerity in a character otherwise sincere, and it was indeed the intellectual protest of her youth. She was particularly vexed now because she was both in India and engaged to be married, which double event should have made every instant sublime. India was certainly dim this morning, though seen under the auspices of Indians. Her wish had been granted, but too late. She could not get excited over Aziz and his arrangements. She was not the least unhappy or depressed in the various odd objects that surrounded her. The comic Purdah carriage, the piles of rugs and bolsters, the rolling melons, the scent of sweet oils, the ladder, the brass-bound box, the sudden eruption of Mahmud Ali's butler from the lavatory with tea and poached eggs upon a tray. They were all new and amusing, and led her to comment appropriately, but they wouldn't bite into her mind. So she tried to find comfort by reflecting that her main interest would henceforth be Ronnie. What a nice, cheerful servant! What a relief after Anthony! They startle one rather. A strange place to make tea in, said Mrs. Moore, who had hoped for a nap. I want to sack Anthony. His behavior on the platform has decided me. Mrs. Moore thought that Anthony's better self would come to the front in Simla. Miss Quested was to be married at Simla. Some cousins with a house looking straight on the Thibet had invited her. Anyhow, we must get a second servant, because at Simla you will be at the hotel, and I don't think Ronnie's Baldeo. She loved plans. Very well, you get another servant, and I'll keep Anthony with me. I am used to his unappetizing ways. He will see me through the hot weather. I don't believe in the hot weather. People like Major Callender who always talk about it, and it's in the hope of making one feel inexperienced and small, like their everlasting, "I've been 20 years in this country." I believe in the hot weather, but never did I suppose it would bottle me up as it will, for owing to the sage leisureliness of Ronnie and Adela, they could not be married till May, and consequently Mrs. Moore could not return to England immediately after the wedding, which was what she had hoped to do. By May, a barrier of fire would have fallen across India and the adjoining sea, and she would have to remain perched up in the Himalayas, waiting for the world to get cooler. I won't be bottled up, announced the girl. I've no patience with these women who leave their husbands grilling in the plains. Mrs. McBride hasn't stopped down once since she married. She leaves her quite intelligent husband alone half the year, and then's surprised she's out of touch with him. She has children, you see. Oh, yes, that's true, said Miss Quested, disconcerted. It is the children who are the first consideration, until they are grown up and married off. When that happens, one has again the right to live for oneself, in the plains or the hills, as suits. Oh, yes, you're perfectly right. I never thought it out. If one has not become too stupid and old. She handed her empty cup to the servant. My idea now is that my cousins shall find me a servant in Simla, at all events to see me through the wedding, after which Ronnie means to reorganize his staff entirely. He does it very well for a bachelor. Still, when he is married, no doubt various changes will have to be made. His old servants won't want to take their orders from me, and I don't blame them. Mrs. Moore pushed up the shutters and looked out. She had brought Ronnie and Adela together by their mutual wish, but really she could not advise them further. She felt increasingly, vision or nightmare, that though people are important, the relation between them are not, and that in particular too much fuss has been made over marriage. Centuries of carnal embracement, yet man is no nearer to understanding man. And today she felt this with such force that it seemed itself a relationship, itself a person who was trying to take hold of her hand. Anything to be seen of the hills? Only various shades of the dark. We can't be far from the place where my hyena was. She peered into the timeless twilight. The train crossed a nullah. Pomper, pomper, pomper was the sound that the wheels made as they trundled over the bridge, moving very slowly. 100 yards on came a second nullah, then a third, suggesting the neighborhood of higher ground. Perhaps this is mine. Anyhow, the road runs parallel with the railway. Her accident was a pleasant memory. She felt in her dry, honest way that it had given her a good shake-up and taught her Ronnie's true worth. Then she went back to her plans. Plans had been a passion with her from girlhood. Now and then she paid tribute to the present, said how friendly and intelligent Aziz was, ate a guava, couldn't eat a fried sweet, practiced her Urdu on the servant, but her thoughts ever veered to the manageable future and to the Anglo-Indian life she had decided to endure. And as she appraised it with its adjuncts of Turtons and Burtons, the train accompanied her sentences. Pomper, pomper. The train, half asleep, going nowhere in particular and with no passenger of importance in any of its carriages, the branch line train, lost on a low embankment between two dull fields. Its message, for it had one, avoided her well-equipped mind. Far away behind her, with a shriek that meant business, rushed the mail, connecting up important towns such as Calcutta and Lahore, where interesting events occur and personalities are developed. She understood that. Unfortunately, India has few important towns. India is the country, fields, fields, then hills, jungle, hills, and more fields. The branch line stops, the road is only practicable for cars to a point. The bullock carts lumber down the side tracks, paths fray out into the cultivation and disappear near a splash of red paint. How can the mind take hold of such a country? Generations of invaders have tried, but they remain in exile. The important towns they build are only retreats, their quarrels the malaise of men who cannot find their way home. India knows of their trouble. She knows of the whole world's trouble, to its uttermost depth. She calls come through her 100 miles, through objects ridiculous and august. But come to what? She has never defined. She is not a promise, only an appeal. I will fetch you from Simla when it's cool enough. I will unbottle you, in fact, continued the reliable girl. We then see some of the Mogul stuff. How appalling if we let you miss the Taj. And then I will see you off at Bombay. Your last glimpse of this country really shall be interesting. But Mrs. Moore had fallen asleep, exhausted by the early start. She was in rather low health and ought not to have attempted the expedition, but had pulled herself together in case the pleasure of the others should suffer. Her dreams were of the same texture, But there it was her other children who were wanting something, Stella and Ralph, and she was explaining to them that she could not be in two families at once. When she awoke, Adela had ceased to plan and leant out the window, saying, "They're rather wonderful." Astonishing even from the rise of the civil station, here the Marlborough were gods to whom earth is a ghost. Kawa Dole was nearest. It shot up in a single slab, on whose summit one rock was poised, if a mass so great can be called one rock. Behind it, recumbent, were the hills that contained the other caves, isolated each from his neighbor by broad channels of the plain. The assemblage, 10 in all, shifted a little as the train crept past them, as if observing its arrival. "I'd not have missed this for anything," said the girl, exaggerating her enthusiasm. "Look, the sun's rising. This'll be absolutely magnificent. Come quickly, look. I wouldn't have missed this for anything. We should never have seen it if we'd stuck to the Turtons and their eternal elephants." As she spoke, the sky to the left turned angry orange. Color throbbed and mounted behind a pattern of trees, grew in intensity, was yet brighter, incredibly brighter, strained from without against the globe of the air. They awaited the miracle, but at the supreme moment when night should have died and day lived, nothing occurred. It was as if virtue had failed in the celestial fount. The hues in the east decayed. The hills seemed dimmer, though in fact better lit, and a profound disappointment entered with the morning breeze. Why, when the chamber was prepared, did the bridegroom not enter with trumpets and shams as humanity expects? The sun rose without splendor. He was presently observed traveling yellowish behind the trees or against insipid sky, and touching the bodies already at work in the fields. Ah, that must be the false dawn. Isn't it caused by dust in the upper layers of the atmosphere that couldn't fall down during the night? I think Mr. McBride said so. Well, I must admit that England has it as regards sunrises. Do you remember Grasmere? Ah, dearest Grasmere. Its little lakes and mountains were beloved by them all. Romantic, yet manageable. It sprang from a kindlier planet. Here, an untidy plain stretches to the knees of the Marlborough. And we'll pause here and we'll continue with this story in the next video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. I love you guys. As Tigger says, ta-ta for now.